Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos and more Shadow of the Erdtree. Welcome to patch 13.0, the patch of Euporia, in both meanings of the word, because this weapon is actually good. In fact, it's kind of insane. In our new patch of 13.0, it can do this, which technically was a combo of just shy 40,000, which is very comparable to, say, the jump spamming seppuku dual curved sword setup. But that's, with a combo into the Ash. How about without that combo? Well, obviously, it's still really strong. About 35k here. I absolutely just destroyed Messmer. It was one of the easiest Messmer fights I've ever done because you're charging up the hits and destroying him. And then as you go into a phase 2 situation where you're given the opportunity to use the Ash, it's just over. In fact, there's a little bit of range to it. For example, here I am against Consort Radahn. In the first section of the fight, we're working him down in terms of stagger, going for charged heavies compared to fully successive hits. Once we're nicely into phase 2, he usually hangs up in the air, usually as an opening attack, and here we can use that holy beam to absolutely blast him for a good 12k without any successive build-up, without any flare. I'm not even pressed against him for the full kind of effect. Coming down from that, he's vulnerable to a stagger, and at that point it's over, whether I just go for combos or another full charge of the Euporia. I'll just slap some good footage in the background while talking about what's going on here. In the new patch, there were 3 major changes. They've decreased the number of attacks required to restore the weapon's luster, they've increased the duration of the luster restoration effect, and they've increased the holy damage with the weapon when its luster is restored flat out. This is everything we could have asked for in regards to this weapon skill effect. It charges up faster, the charge itself lasts longer so you can use it whenever it's the right time, giving you more space to find the right opportunity, and then the attack actually hits harder. These are the brilliant details that we needed to make it work. Of course, there was hope for, say, poise protection and stuff like that, but honestly, as you've seen, it's just not needed. To get the full charge so that you're ready to go with the Ash, it's about 10 to 12 hits, and because the buff itself lasts around 40 seconds, it's much more functional. There's gonna be a window where you can actually get that off in every fight. And even when there's not necessarily the perfect window, you can use it from range to solid effect, even then with just the beam. But don't forget, by charging up the weapon, it's increasing the holy damage of the basic attacks. So it can even be worth holding on to. Maybe there isn't the perfect opportunity to fully get off the full charge of the weapon skill. And that's fine, because you're still hitting with these juiced up, extra holy damaging hitting basics. We can enhance the holy damage in various ways before the fight, like that new weapon in the DLC, the Sword of Light, which gives you that body buff you can pop before a fight, and then if you want to, you could even unequip the Sword of Light because that buff remains after. Now you're dealing more holy damage as you go in. Technically, what you can do with this new charge time is attack an enemy outside of the boss arena. Get it charged up. You have over half a minute to use it in the fight. You probably open it with the fight, or as you go into phase 2 of a fight, like the case here with Midra, you're able to get through phase 1 and then save the charge for phase 2 to open with it, allowing for multiple of these to absolutely ream the boss health. So outside of that, you just charge the weapon as fast as possible by landing successive hits as quick as possible. That's generally what we care about. How many times can we get the weapon to connect with an attack ASAP? A great way to do that then is to rely on running heavy attacks whenever possible. That's a multi-hit attack that's very quick as well. Using Leather's armor, as you can see I'm doing, that increases the damage of running attacks by 10%. But outside of that, standing light attacks are always going to be great as chain combos with twin blades or charged heavies for suitable stagger buildup, for multi-hits as well for suitable bosses like Consort Radahn. But seriously, you're going to feel how fast this charges up. You actually get to enjoy the buff for what it is now, a holy damage increase for your normal attacks, and then when the time is right, an insane spin and holy blast with even more damage behind it. Now it hits insanely hard, and it's become so reliable to regularly find the right time to do it. This is easily a top contender for the DLC weapons, and now I think it's a contender for one of the best weapons in the game flat out, which is so exciting. So let's cover the build we think you're going to want to run to maximize this as much as possible. Alright, we're going to start with, say, your equipment. Now obviously you're going to run Euporia itself, but interestingly, even though it has 16 strength required, remember that we're going to be two-handing this. So as I'm one-handing it, you can see I can't actually use it, and as soon as I two-hand it, you get that scaling on the strength, so you're fine. So as long as you're okay when you're two-handing it, which is how you're going to use it, you'll be fine, and we'll get to that in the stats section. The second weapon we're running is Sword of Light. As I said, you can technically unequip this because it's a body buff. The point of this is to temporarily boost your holy attacks. So as I swap to this weapon, use the Ash of War, and we use this awesome animation, I now have a body buff. As you can see, see its lines on my body. You can see it now in the buff list. And as I unequip the weapon, the lines are still there. I'm still getting the holy buff. So even if you have lower endurance than me, and that's an issue for you, maybe you go heavy load, you can just do this buff before a fight and then unequip the Sword of Light. But in any holy build, this weapon's going to be very relevant for that purpose. Why not increase your holy damage for no downside? Since I have enough endurance to be medium load even with it equipped though, I don't even have to waste my time with that, so it's very convenient. In terms of seal, it doesn't really matter. We're pretty much only using Golden Vow for the buffs. So obviously a weightless seal is always good. Something simple like the Erdtree seal, since we are scaling faith really hard, is just an easy option. Let's actually put the helmet on now. So for the armor, we have 3 out of 4 Rakshasa set. This increases your flat damage, but it says increases the damage taken by the wearer. The reality is more like it doesn't have nearly as much physical or general resistance compared to other armor sets in this type. See how this one has double? It just doesn't offer as much protection, but obviously the actual damage increase that it gives you for everything is incredibly worth it. And that's why most damn every build is wearing mostly this set or all of it. But I'm not wearing all of it, obviously. I'm wearing 3 pieces because we're wearing the Leather's armor. As I said in the intro, this slightly strengthens attacks following a dodge roll, backstep, or dash attacks. So we have the back step, we have the roll, which can also of course be done when you're crouching, and then we have running attacks. So there's the running R1, or the one we recommend, running R2, which is going to hit a little bit harder, and there's multiple hits there too. Technically though, if you don't think you're going to be doing those running attacks, although we do recommend it, then it'd be better to run the Rakshasa full with the chest piece too. And there are some fights where the charged heavy will be worth doing, like say Consort Radahn, if the target isn't going to be mobile for long enough to get this charged heavy off. That's something worth considering, but you know, it's up to you. For the talismans though, it's quite straightforward. Of course, we're running Shard of Alexander to increase the power of the weapon skill itself. It is entirely holy damage, so we want to boost our holy damage as much as possible with the Sacred Scorpion Charm. We're doing successive hits in the build up to that as much as we can, as well as, you know, juicing the weapon itself, so it naturally ties itself to successive build up, like the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia. Finally, I go for the two-handed sword talisman, since we are using two-handed attacks the whole time. Technically, this is not going to enhance the power of your weapon skill, but we are using a lot of basics to charge up, and it's a big DPS increase. For your Wondrous Physick then, we have of course the Thorny Cracktear for more successive attack power, and then the Holy Shrouding Cracktear to boost holy attacks. But now let's talk stats at level 150, and if you want to go higher than that, be my guest. We go for 60 Vigor because it's the DLC. You could drop down to 50 if you feel comfortable. 60 Mind is a minimum. I find that it's the perfect break point for everything I do. I don't necessarily need more than that. 27 Endurance is basically as high as I can get it for more stamina, but as long as you're medium rolling, you're fine. I've got my starting stats on strength, again because you only need 16 when two-handing it, and that gives it more than enough. 16 dexterity is required to actually wield the weapon, and then every other point goes into faith to get it to 80, where it starts to cap out properly. Because the weapon skill is all about holy damage, that's what's scaling that the most. And if you over level beyond this, then I would suggest or consider leveling strength and dexterity for the raw damage. But those are the stats. And that's pretty much everything I need to tell you about what we believe the best build you could run for our new euphoric build. Absolutely awesome to see a weapon that is so cool in design that was so disappointing at the launch of this DLC. They've done a fantastic job on this. I think it's incredible. And yeah, if they did give it poise protection during the animation, would have been too much. Even then, this feels like one of the strongest things you can use right now. So get it while it's hot, basically. If you enjoyed the build and it was useful though, do drop a like. It really helps us. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.